What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the interweb? Today, we're talking about Silent Hill 2 Remake. It's officially real. The very first leak for this game came out in the end of 2019. Here we are, 3 years later, Silent Hill 2 is back. But that leads us to another question. When is the release date? If you followed this channel for any amount of time, you know talking about release dates for games is kind of my thing. And as long as the game's been actually announced, I usually get pretty close to the release date, usually within a month or two. Sometimes, like in the case of Resident Evil 2 Remake, when that first leaked out, and I made the video about that, I got that release date wrong by 2 days. I thought it was going to come out January 27th. I was wrong. But with that being said, let's talk about Silent Hill 2's release date and what I think it's going to be. Silent Hill 2's original release date was September 24th, 2001. The game is set in the late 70s, early 80s. However, another installment in the Silent Hill series claims the game to be in 1993. So we're going to go with that 1993 for when the game is set in. Next year is 2023, which means 30 years since 1993. So my guess overall for the release date of this game is late September, early October. Why? Because that's the perfect time for Silent Hill to come out. And also because in recent history, all Konami games have usually released in September or October, or in some cases they released at the beginning of the year, such as Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, which came out March 18th, 2014, which I actually have tattooed on my arm. March 18th. That's actually not in reference to Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes. That's in reference to my girlfriend and I's anniversary, because when that game came out, we were in high school, and that game gave me the confidence to ask her out. And now here we are almost 10 years later. It's tattooed on my arm, as well as her first initial, so that's pretty cool. I do honestly think they're going to get pretty close to the original release date. Now, unfortunately, looking at the 2023 calendar, September 24th is in fact a Sunday. So unfortunately, it's more than likely not going to be able to launch on a Sunday. However, I could see it coming out the following day, the 25th, or the day after actually, the 26th, because that's a Tuesday, September 26th. Now, that could be working, because it could also celebrate the anniversary of the game, as well as have something close to the original release date. I think that would be pretty ideal. But where this gets tricky is we don't know the development cycle of this game. From what we saw, we didn't see any gameplay. It could potentially be very, very early, very, very bare bones, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that we won't be able to see it next year. Now, I think a worst case, absolute worst case scenario, this game would launch February of 2024. Next year, is a perfect time to launch the game for them. Other than The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, there is no other major games coming out next year, at least off the top of my head, other than Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I honestly forgot about until right now. But that makes two major games. Obviously, Silent Hill is not going to compete with Resident Evil, so it can't launch at the beginning of 2023, and it won't want to launch in the mid of 2024, because that's when the next Resident Evil mainline installment will be. So, with that being said, the end of next year, or the very beginning of 2024, that is the ideal time for Silent Hill 2 Remake to launch. And not even mentioning that, we have all those other games coming out. So what I think is more realistic to happen is we're going to see a late September release for Silent Hill 2 Remake, and then we're going to see a new Silent Hill entry for the next 4 years thereafter, including everything they announced in a movie. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely, I could always be wrong. But going off the top of my head, going off the research that I've done into this and everything I know about Silent Hill and Konami, I think September the 26th is the most likely release date for Silent Hill. September 26th, 2023. I'm gonna mark it on my calendar, and if I'm wrong, then oh well. If I'm close, that's awesome. If I get it right somehow, that's even crazier. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, when do you think the release date's gonna be? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, try not to die, and I'll see you in the next video.